Okay, so here we go. Week 10. This is I think, one of the shortest readings of prose that I've given you guys this semester. Doris Lessing's piece is from the 60s. I'm also asking you to read a little bit more Virginia Woolf. And I'm sorry if you're feeling wolfed out, but Virginia Woolf's nonfiction is totally different from her fiction, as you'll see. Her piece, A Room of One's Own, it's literally about, and the section that you have to read from our text here doesn't give you the sort of title argument, but it does talk about important things. So basically, Virginia Woolf in a Room of One's Own, which is like a really long text, of which you will read sections. A Room of One's Own, I mean, for one thing, she's talking to like really bougie, like well-to-do, middle class, upper class people, people who have houses wherein, right, within this house, there's almost always a room that belongs to the man of the house, if you will. Today we might call it a man cave, but back in the day, it was like a study or, I don't know, an office, a room that the man could go into, close the door, and be away from like domestic life. The children would know not to bother him in there. The wife would know not to bother him in there. He could close the door, and ostensibly he was doing work, and whether he was or not, he could just be puffing on what's the word I want? A pipe or a cigar. He could be entertaining a friend, like male friend or two. But he had that space, separate from like the living room, separate from the kitchen, separate from his bedroom, or the bedroom he shared with his wife, if they did that sort of thing, because sometimes in the Victorian, even into the early modern times, bougie people had their own bedrooms, but there was almost always a room for this level of class. There was almost always a room for the man. And Virginia Woolf was saying, hold up, wait a minute. We all deserve a room of our own. You know? A woman deserves a room of one's own, too. And so that's kind of one of the overriding arguments of that, and that is what Doris Lessing is responding to. The part you're going to read has to do with like imagine this, right? You know, she goes like, basically, Woolf does, riddle me this. What if Shakespeare had a sister? What if she was talented? And this speaks to something that I think is really important that maybe some of you have noticed about our syllabus. Even though this is English literature too, there's not a lot of women on the syllabus, and I really have tried. I mean, Jane Austen would be great to have on the syllabus, but we'd have to spend at least 4 or 5 weeks reading one of her novels, because she writes novels, like, exclusively, and they're big. The Bronte sisters are like, I don't know, they're okay in my opinion, but whether we read Wuthering Heights or Jane Eyre, we'd also need to have spent another 4 weeks just to get that on the syllabus. There's Frankenstein, Mary Shelley. We read Her Husband. I'm sorry, I just think that's an overrated book. And the problem is, and you'll read about this, Woolf talks about this, like, where are all the women on the syllabi? I just don't think that Frankenstein's a good book. And I think that a lot of times people throw it on a syllabus because they feel like we need more women on the syllabus. And I think it's worth noting, and this is where I'm noting it, that we do need more women on the syllabus. I mean, maybe we need to do an English Lit 3 that's instead of trying to cram everything from Romanticism in till today, and everything before it as its own class, maybe an English Lit 3 would be a good idea, and we could start that, I don't know, sometime in the early 20th century. And if we did that, we would have lots and lots of women on the syllabus because, you know, once you get into the 20th century, there are more women that are available, if, as it were. Like, I mean, literally Woolf talks about how women were not educated. They weren't, not only were they not encouraged to write, they were discouraged from writing. So it's tough. As a professor, it makes it tough. I want to have like as much diversity as possible in my syllabus, but I especially when it's English literature, it's going to be English people. This course was not named British literature. I would have brought in all kinds of people from the colonial experience, but they literally named it English literature. I didn't do that, so we only have English people. I mean, Doris Lessing, as it was born abroad but grew up in England, so I've given you English writers because that's the name of this course. I didn't name the course. I didn't construct the course. Anyway, I've gone a little far afield. The point that I wanted to make is here that now we're into late 20th century, just barely, the 60s, and yet you will see some of the same things that bothered Woolf, Virginia Woolf, about the role of women in society still plaguing women. They've got the right to vote, they've had the right to vote. It seems like, okay, why? And yet we have this story that we're going to read, To Room 19 by Doris Lessing, and it really shows a frustration, the frustration of what it was like to be a woman in this society. And they're trying to be really open-minded about things. And there's just some real cool psychology, realistic stuff in this story. And again, I'm trying not to spoil things, but I mean, I guess that's all I have to say because it's a short story. I can't talk too much about it. The only thing is that as we read these stories that get closer and closer to our own time, 1963, you might think, yo, Hodges, that's a long time ago. Frankly, in the long history of literature, 1963, it's before I was born, but that is goddamn, like, really close to being now. The way the language is used, at least in this text, the way society views certain morals and things. This story could have happened yesterday, almost, and it wouldn't seem out of place, let's just say, right? Again, I was about to give a spoiler there. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna hold my tongue. But I hope you enjoy it. There's only 2 more weeks after this. So if you haven't gotten your hands on Success, please let me know. I've been meaning to call the bookstore and find out what's going on with that. But I haven't heard anything from anybody lately about not having hands on that text. That's the last text we have. So after this week, I'm hoping everyone has Martin Amis's Success. That's a book from the 70s. So that's as close to today as we're going to get in this semester. So yeah, please be proactive. Let me know if you don't have that text, and I can try to help wrangle something for you, or we can work something out. But it's been weeks and weeks and weeks now. This is week 10. That text for next week was assigned literally 10 weeks ago or more. So anyway, any other questions, concerns, issues, comments, you have my email address. Remember, there's only one T. I'm almost through with the midterms. I'll be sending back PDFs to everybody individually, basically of like your document with a grade and on it and all of my feedback, kind of line by line. So look out for that. I'm like more than halfway through them. So expect that. Otherwise, I guess it's a short reading week, and I'm hoping you'll use that to get started on your final paper topics. And again, if you have any questions on that as well, always email address, my email address, 1T, and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, I don't know, I guess enjoy the reading, and I'll talk to you guys soon.